Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Hi friends, you might have just noticed something different just happened. I did make a new intro. There'll be new outro music too, I think. Now, that wasn't necessarily because I was bored with what I had. I mean, my intro was cute, it was fun, but my phone had a meltdown the other day. Yesterday. I did an update and all of a sudden my PIN number didn't work to restart my phone. So I panicked, and the only option to get into your phone if your PIN doesn't work is to factory reset your phone. So thankfully most of the stuff of mine is in the cloud, so I didn't really lose anything. However, that also meant that all of my settings on all of the apps that I use though were lost. So I was like, well, let's use this as an opportunity to, change some stuff up. So we did. Hopefully everything else goes smoothly and we'll be okay. But you're here for the weekly wrap up, which I'm so excited. This last week was a really good week. I didn't get as much read as normal, which you guys will see. I still read a good amount. Because I was just very distracted by a few things, but it should be good. We have two new we have two new channel members to welcome, both at the Fated Friend level, which means they have access to everything that I offer for channel members: early access to videos, a monthly live chat with just us. They can make suggestions for videos, all that fun stuff. So we have Allison A, and we have Yaddy N. I hope I said that right. So thank you both for joining to support the channel. Every little bit helps. Something else that helps is if you're interested in some bookish goodies, you can check out my Etsy. I have a 18% off sale going until my birthday on the 18th. And I just launched a cute new product. They're just these cute little things that, I don't know what to call them. I'm calling them little trinket trays. I use mine for my my sewing notions and stuff, and I've put my lip balm in one by my bed. So there's a few of these fun ones, as well as there are some new designs I launched. There's this really cute mustache book sleeve that I just think is adorable, and some unicorn prints. So definitely check those out and get that discount. I know it's not quite 20%, but I thought 18% would be a cute thing to do. So I did it. And yeah, let's dive into the books. Let me get my spreadsheet up here. Cause yeah, it was an interesting week. Okay. So the first book that I read was, I needed a bit of a, palette cleanser after reading, Hills of Shivers and Shadows, which y'all know I talked about for 30 minutes. But oh, also I just posted this on my Instagram and I put it on the YouTube community page. Pam Godwin is coming for an interview. So excited about that. She will be here on the 21st at 6 p.m. Central Time. Of course, that video will be saved. You'll be able to watch it afterwards, but come when it's live if you want to ask some questions. So make sure you pre-order Hills of Shivers and Shadows. It won't be on Kindle Unlimited, like I said, so if you pre-order it, you'll be able to get it right at midnight Eastern time, so wherever you live, it'll be there. And yeah, it's a pretty intense one for sure. Anyway, after that, I had seen this book on Instagram that one of my friends shared, and it looked so fun, and it's called Jumping the Shark. So look at this cover, isn't that great? This is an alien abduction romance, but it's a very soft abduction, as you'll see if you read it. It's only about 170 pages. It's by Ash Raven, who I'd never read before, but this is about a shark named Maxon who is looking for a mate, and there's actually this intergalactical dating service they can join, and they will get paired with humans, and then they will go on a date with these humans looking human, they'll wear a face changing thing, and then if they click, they'll kidnap them and take them to their home to be their mate. But it's all, you'll see, this heroine is actually not too mad to be being kidnapped at all. It was very sweet, and I don't know, I just had a great time with this. It does have a bit of DDLG happening, so there's some daddy dom, shark daddy, and they like to like play a little bit together. It's nothing over the top if you don't love like DDLG. It's just some like daddy dom play when they're being intimate. He does have 2 cocks. There is like double penetration and anal and super sexy stuff in a swimming pool. And I don't know, I just gotta say that I didn't think I would be attracted to a shark man, but you know, I've fallen for weirder before, but this was really fun. It comes out on the 17th, I believe. So yeah, I gave it 4 stars. It was a 3.5 on the spice scale. And as my trigger warning, I put, it's gentle kidnapping. You know how there's like gentle parenting? This is gentle kidnapping. I just named a new thing. All right, then I finally read This Could Be Us, and I feel so bad that I waited so long to read this. I was hoping my physical copy was going to be here, but you know what? That's the last time I pre-order from Barnes & Noble because they take for fucking ever to deliver stuff, okay? They always have their thing where you can pre-order at 25%. They do that every like month or 2 months or so. So I do have a bunch of books pre-ordered from them. But like, why is it taking so long to deliver my book? Okay, like, come on. But anyway, I finally read this and I have some mixed feelings about it, which is a bummer in my opinion, because Before I Let Go was one of my favorite books in 2022. And it just made me a little sad that I didn't love this one as much as I want. And I'll tell you the main issue. The main issue is that this is women's fiction. It 100% is. I will explain in detail why without like spoilers to it. But this is women's fiction, which I don't really like to read. And it's not that it wasn't a well-written book. It's not because it's still Kennedy. It's not that it still wasn't moving. But the reason why I felt unsatisfied with this is that the hero, who we'll get into, is wonderful, but he doesn't have a character arc. He's the same from the beginning to the end. He's a knight in shining armor, like patient, kind, sexy man, and he has no character growth. He's just already perfect, and it's the heroine who's working through her shit the whole time. And that's women's fiction. So, and the romance was only literally in the last 20% of this book. Like, yes, there's some flirting, there's a little bit of like stuff going on, but the true like romance and them merging their lives together and coming is only in the last 20% of this book. And it felt like an afterthought. It felt like, oh, this heroine's getting a happy ever after, not them getting it together. And that's how I feel, and I stand by it. So This Could Be Us starts with our heroine Soledad, who you may have met in the first book if you have read that one. And currently in the beginning, she's married to her husband. They have 3 daughters. Very wealthy husband. He's in like, he works for this company that it does products. I don't even care what they are. But their life isn't going too great. He's not being a very attentive husband. It's clear to us as the reader, he's probably cheating on her. Like, we can just tell, like, you know. And then it's discovered that he is embezzling money. And there is this man who's a forensic accountant. His name is Judah. And he is the one who's brought in to, you know, discover what's going on. And so he discovers this crime. And so in a way, and this of course isn't his fault, it's the husband's fault for being a criminal, he kind of blows this up. He blows it wide open, and that leads to Soledad's life blowing up. Because what often happens when trying to get an embezzler to crack and say where all the money went is by, you know, putting pressure on the family. So her children all go to private school, they're in sports. She's been a stay-at-home mom because her husband wanted her to, and he just literally rips that all away. And she has a choice to make, whether she continues to stand by this husband, who we find out more and more awful things about him. And then we have, you know, Judah, who's the one who did it, let's say, which of course he isn't, but that is going to be the perspective a little bit, that he's the one who did this. If he hadn't done it, it'd be okay, right? But it's her husband who did it. And so she ends up having to make the choice to protect her and her daughters. So this book is split into 2 parts. So we deal with that stuff in the first part, and then we skip ahead a little bit in time. My biggest issue where this starts to come is I think we should have skipped ahead further. We only skip ahead about 9 months. So it's not far enough for things to have really cooled down. And now when we see where she's at, which again, I won't like spoil all of those things. I'm trying to keep some things vague. You know, things are working. They're hard, but her and her daughters are making it. And we discover that Judah, who he actually has twin sons, they are both autistic, but on different kind of levels of it. And he is actually divorced, but has a great relationship with his ex-wife and actually his ex-wife's new husband. They all are kind of a family unit in a strange way, taking care of these boys because, you know, Judah has, I mean, the very real realization that he will probably be looking after his boys for not only his life, but their life. And so he wants to be set up well enough that his boys will be looked after for all of their lifetime and not have to worry about anything. Okay. So yeah, he's a dreamboat, guys. Like, I'm not saying that he isn't absolutely swoony and delicious and so patient and kind and just everything. But the way he is when we meet him is the way that he ends this book. And Soledad is the one who has to do like all the growing and changing. Like, this is all about her becoming an independent mom and businesswoman and what she has to do. Now, she actually has a social media presence that she uses to fund their life, which mad respect for that. Although one of my friends, we were talking about it, I was like, wow, it's really easy for her to be making enough money to support 4 people. I was like, geez, the brand deals you would have to be doing that. Anyway, just a little bit envious, I guess, as a content creator myself. Jude actually follows her like social media and stuff, so he like knows that she's decided to date, basically. She's not looking for anyone. And though Judah makes it known to her eventually that like, I want to be the one you date when you're ready to do it, he kind of just gets strung along, like waiting for her to be ready to do it. And this becomes like a friends with benefits thing, even though, you know, sex is very like, I mean, we'll say it, sex is very sacred to Judah. He doesn't just do it with whoever. And so there were times too where it felt like she was taking advantage of that. Not like purposely, but, you know, of course he really wants to be with her. So when she's like, I'm not ready to be with someone, but like we have this great connection, I just didn't love that she did that. And he was just kind of like, there just wasn't anything for Judah in this story. He was just there to show that she had made it when she gets a man. And here's the thing, if we switch that around, if it had been a man that like the woman is his reward for making it, we wouldn't love that, you know? And I'm about equal opportunity stuff for that. So again, like, I don't mean to like secondhand Monday morning quarterback this, because the story is still written impeccably. Like, it's still Kennedy Ryan. It's so beautiful. It's just, I felt unsatisfied when I was done with the story, and I've never felt that way when I finished a Kennedy Ryan before. So I have to be honest with you guys. And I know I'm not the only one. Like, plenty of my friends, this wasn't a 5 or 6 star read the way we usually expect Kennedy's books to be for us. So I feel like she's just maybe starting to go a different way with her writing, which, I mean, here's the thing too. I want to come back to this. If this hadn't been marketed as a Kennedy Ryan romance to me, if I had known that this was going to have more of a women's fiction bent, I probably still would have read this, but my expectations would have been set that like, we're going to watch Soledad's journey more than what the romance is, because I would still read any book that Kennedy Ryan writes, but for this one to be sold as just like any other romance of hers, it's not. And the way I can say this is true is that I looked back at the last 4 or 5 books of hers that I've read, you know, Real, the Grip trilogy, Long Shot, the first book in this series, and both characters had journeys they had to go on, and they worked towards them together. All of them do. So this isn't just me like making it up to pick it apart. Like, I love Kennedy Ryan. She's in my top authors of all time. And this didn't feel like her best romance. Still a very good book, not the best romance. So let's move on. I don't like to hound on stuff. I still gave this 4 stars. But it just, I almost didn't rate it, because you guys know I don't rate when it's not romance, but Forever was selling it as a romance, so I get to judge it as one. I don't want them to continue to do that. Like, if hers are going to be more about the woman's self-discovery, like, then just tell us. But it's that thing a little bit of like, we know this book isn't quite that, but we're still going to pitch it as a romance because it will get the romance girlies in, you know. And again, we all still would have read it. It's Kennedy Ryan. Like, there wasn't a single one of my friends that were like, oh, if I'd known, I wouldn't read it. No, I would absolutely still read it. And if you like a little more women's fiction, but you want to know it has an HEA, this one absolutely does that. And it's a really beautiful HEA. I just didn't feel satisfied because I didn't get to see them like working towards each other. It was Judah waiting at the end and Soledad working her way to him. And that's more women's fiction. So yeah, I gave it 4 stars. It was a 2.5 on the spice scale. And yeah, so there we go. Okay, next up, I just read a spicy little short book. It wasn't quite a novella, like it was 220 pages, but this was one of my books that was recommended in the 12 Recs from 12 Friends. This one was recommended by, I think, Reading Romance HEA. Let me check. I actually have the pretty thing I made of these. Yeah, by Reading Romance HEA on Instagram. And this is Dad Can't Know by Ava Marx. So this is a dad's best friend, and a dad's best friend who's like called Uncle. And so he left town when this girl was 18. What's her name? Robin. And his name is Callum, which she calls Uncle Callum. And she's been attracted to him since she was a teenager. But when she was 18, he moved. And she's missed him ever since then, you know, not only because she's attracted, but because he was a very important person in their life. And it's 2 years later, and her dad is going through something pretty serious. And so he comes back to town, and we find out from him that the reason he left town is he started being attracted to her, and he was like, that is unacceptable, and he left. So now he's back, and they're both tempting each other, and eventually it's gonna boil over. This was just okay. I honestly wish it either would have been shorter or would have been longer, because at this length, like, there was hinting at like a deeper depth, but it also was still just trying to be a spicy taboo novella, and it didn't quite do that either. So I kind of just wanted it to be more one way or the other. This one did have a unique kink though. It has this kind of like ASMR kink. I don't know another way to say it, but there's a scene where like, it's so hot. He barely touches her, but he like lays her down and she's like blindfolded, and he just makes all these different sexy noises. And I think it's funny. I'm pretty positive that I know who asked for ASMR kink recommendations. Someone did, and I think it might have been her. It could have been someone else who read this too, but I've never read that before. So unfortunately, there won't be a recommendation video for that one coming, because there has to at least be a way to like find lots of those. And I mean, in all my years, I never read one like that before, and it was fun. So I do recommend this just for that too, because the other kinkiness in here isn't anything you can't handle. There's some bondage, there's some you know, a little bit of doming that he does. So you definitely could do this, but that scene alone is really hot. But the romance itself was just kind of meh for me, because it wasn't that taboo. And like, honestly, like when the dad finds out, they just are like, you either accept it or you don't. That's it. There's like no negotiation or talk. And the dad's just like, well, fine, I'm okay with it. I'm like, this is what I mean. It either should have been longer and we worked that out, or the dad should have been like, no one will take care of my baby better than you, which would be weird, but whatever. So I gave this one like 3.5, 3, and it was a 3 on the spice scale. Okay, then I read City of Darkness by Karina Halley. This is book 3 in the Underworld God series, which has been a long time coming. I wasn't even going to get this one, but I ended up deciding to, because I did want to see if I still was sucked into the series again, and I didn't want to buy the book. I know, but that's what we do sometimes as ARC readers. I want to see. And one of the things she does do is that since it's been so long since, I think it was River of Shadows and Crown of Crimson, and this is City of Darkness, and there's one more book coming still. And I have been more than vocal about the fact that I don't like how many books this series ended up being, because like this one too, this one's a little longer than the previous two, like this one's 280 pages, but when you put out multiple books that are each only like 250 pages, and you leave them all on cliffhangers, I start to get really irritated. However, again, I was intrigued because the cliffhanger at the end of the second one was a good one. And that's why like it took so long to come out, because Karina Halley's had some personal things happen. She also took some side roads and wrote some other books, and she finally came back to this one. And the where it had ended was that Death could finally touch her. I won't explain how we got to it, but Death can't touch anyone with his hands or they will die. And so, like, they were married, but the only way they could have sex was in some very, like, interesting, magical ways. And now he can touch her. So we do start the book off with, like, them finishing a sex scene that they started before, which is pretty hot, I won't lie. But she also starts the book with a recap. You know, like Supernatural, like previously on Supernatural. She does that with this. And it was very helpful. It jogged my memory, reminded us who the villains are, where we're at, and how we ended up here. And then they actually end up in the human world for a little while. So we have these like two kind of storylines of Death and Hannah trying to figure out a way back to where they were. And then his children, his son and daughter, are in the underworld still dealing with the people who betrayed them, which is his ex-wife and some other people. So there's these two stories going on. I didn't really care about the one happening underground, even though I know it's supposed to be important. I just didn't care about it. And that can be kind of a problem when you don't care about part of the story, right? Unfortunately. So it was fun, and at this point, I will read the last one too, because I just want to see where it goes. But yeah, at least now if you want to read it, there are 3 out. You can binge all 3 of them, and the last part is, knock on something, supposed to be the last one. So we'll see. I ended up, because this was an arc, I did put it out of 4. It's probably more a 3.5 for me, and it was a 2.5 on the spice scale. It was actually pretty spicy, which was fun. So yeah, then we have a book I've been waiting to get to. We have Taken to Hemo by Elizabeth Stevens. So this is another alien romance series that I read. It's actually, I think I shared this, that I read this series, the audiobooks that were available, and as well as the Clicanian series around the same time. I was binging a bunch of alien romance, which was great. I loved it. But I've been waiting for the audiobooks because I just love the alien romance on audio. I just do. It's warm and cozy for me. I love it. So this one is about Sphera, and XOXO, and we've seen them in the previous ones. So Sphera is a very religious woman, and they call it the Tri-God in this world, which is actually, it really is. It's based off of like 3 different religions. Gods are put into one, so there's different rules. I'll get into some of this, but like she wears a hijab, and she also like makes this Catholic sign of the cross, and she also like pray. So there's a lot of different like religious things all put in together, and again, I'll get to that in a minute. And then there's XOXO, who is kind of her like bodyguard, even though very reluctantly. Like, he acts like he hates her. Well, he's her mate. Like, he's her mate, and I think he doesn't respect the humans as much as the other like leaders do at this point, but he was sent to protect her. And so we see them going to a few different places, and she's sharing about the humans and that, you know, we can get along, blah, blah, blah. There's honestly a lot of connection between this one and what was happening in the Clicanian series. I'm not going to lie. But there's just such a, like, animosity from XOXO to her that I've never understood. And in this one, it, like, didn't help. However, she doesn't really help it either, because she starts having lots of mating urges for him. And the thing is, in this world, like, your mate can reject you. And it's very painful if they do. And he hasn't exactly done things to make her want to accept him. However, there's a scene where, like, her, like, longing for her mate kind of overpowers her, and they have, like, a spicy scene together, and she immediately feels a lot of shame from it, and she very much, like, rejects him for it. And he doesn't handle that well either. Like, he should have known that she would feel embarrassed about it. And then he's all like offended that like she has told him she wants to be with someone who cares about her. So when he gives in to some of these mating feelings, it's like he doesn't handle the aftercare very well, is the point. That's really what it is. He just is, when she pushes him away, he's just like, fine, I hate you, and like runs from her. And it's just a mess. Like, these two are so messy. It was frustrating. And then, to get to it, once they do finally consummate their mating bond, in her religion, once she is no longer a virgin, she can't wear the hijab anymore. And so now she's not wearing it, and she very much is, again, like, blaming XOXO for this. That's how it felt to me, when, like, he was like, you will hate me after this. I don't want to do this. I mean, of course he wants to do it, but, like, she's like, no, I promise I won't. And then she does, and she blames him. And it was just very frustrating. So yeah, there was lots of jerking back and forth with that until there's some like reveals that happen about what had been happening with the hybrid children, and that they weren't actually being, like, it wasn't actually dangerous for the women to have them. And we see that come to fruition because our heroine from, I think it's all the way book 1 or 2, it's book 1 or 2, she's been pregnant. And so they've, like, her and her mate have been so worried that she's going to die in childbirth, because there's always been this stance that hybrid children, like, kill their mothers. And we find out that might not be as straightforward as we've been told. So there's that. Yeah. And so, okay, the thing that also started to bother me as we went through, and honestly, I may lower my rating for this because, you know what, it's okay that I'm a bit offended by it. So, as I mentioned, the tri-god situation. So, in the previous books, when we saw little bits of, like, the different religions she was following, I thought it was kind of interesting because what it appears to me that it is, that it's Islam, Christianity, and I think some of the Jewish faith. I'm not sure. But it really started to bother me that those 3 faiths who each have one God were all pushed together. It's a little offensive to me as a Christian, and I feel like it would be a little offensive to, I can't speak for those religions, but it's a little offensive to me that he was merged all into one, because there are some pretty different beliefs in each of those religions, and they don't all match with each other. And I want to take it not as malice, because I can be intelligent about that. I believe the author's just trying to show that, you know, how religion can evolve and change, and what if we didn't have it still as we do, but people were still like, I can see that on one level, but I also just kind of wish she had made them up, because it's very clearly that they are old human religions, and they're religions that are pretty opposed to each other in a lot of ways. Not completely, but I started to get a bad feeling about it when we're in her head and we're seeing her and her family, where when I was in the previous books and we were just seeing little pieces of it, I was like, oh, that's interesting. But now, like, being in her head, I didn't love it. And you know what? It's okay that I don't love it. It might not bother any of you, if you don't, you know, yeah. And again, I can't even speak to things being like outright offensive, because she's not trying to. It was more so that it was offensive to me that these 3 religions are like being treated as one, and he's called the tri-god. Like, I just didn't like it. So yeah, I gave this a 4-star, and it was a 3 on the spice scale. But like I said, the more I like think about this book and I acknowledge that I'm a little upset about that, I might lower it, because I don't have to be okay with it. I mean, it was an okay book in the series, but honestly, it was my least favorite one in the series. So I need to see what I rated the other ones, because I might lower it then. And there is some trigger warnings for PTSD and attempted assault in here. Okay, then we have a reread, so I won't say too much. Just like I did with Aldo, I also was given the audiobook for Roman, so I reread Roman. This time, the narrators were, I think it's the same narrators, actually I don't know. It's John Lane and Maxine Mitchell, and they were Roman and Effie. So if you want to see my full review of that book, I think you just have to watch the previous one, where I go into all the details about that one. But I still loved it this time around. I love these audiobooks. I love these characters. This is a 5-star book, and this one's a 3 on the spice scale. All right, and now we're on the last book that I read. I told you, this week there wasn't too much stuff. I read Heartbreak Handoff. So Lex Martin was new to me. Did I read her earlier this month, or did I read her last month? I'm actually not sure when I read her. It might have been last month that I did. But I had seen a book that was being recommended. Let me look. Yes, I read it last month. Second Down Darling is the one I read. And it's called the Varsity Dad series. And this one that was going to be coming out, called Heartbreak Handoff, was going to be a not his baby. It's a cheerleader and a football player. Her dad's the coach. So you can see it has a lot of the things that I love in a book. So I read Second Down Darling, and that one was okay. That was a sister's ex-boyfriend, and the conflict at the end just pissed me off a lot. But this one, I read the arc of this. This just came out though too, so you can snag it. You can read this as a standalone if you want to. Like, I was able to read Second Down Darling, which was the 4th book in the series, with no problem. And then this one, like, you find out about how the heroine gets pregnant in that one, but it also tells you in this one too. So it's up to you. So this one we have Roxy. And again, she was a cheerleader at this college. Her dad's a coach for the football team. And she actually had been hooking up with the quarterback, you know, a bit cliche. And he gets her pregnant. And he's not a great guy. She knows he was cheating on her. So when she finds out she's pregnant, she's like, well, I gotta tell him about this. So over the summer, right before they're going to go back to school, she drives to his hometown. So good job. Really proud of her with this secret baby. She, like, her friends know. She hasn't told like her dad or anyone yet because she's like, I need to tell the dad. So she drives there and she shows up and he's having an engagement party basically. And he's had a girlfriend since high school who is this super sweet woman. Her name is Abigail. She is very nice. And so Roxy's like, feels even more betrayed than ever and ends up not telling him right then, which I honestly don't blame her. I probably wouldn't have said it right then either. And so she hightails it out of there. To make things worse, Abigail actually transfers to this school to be there. So we find out that this douche wasn't just cheating on Roxy, he was cheating on his high school love with Roxy and the other women that he did. So she doesn't know what to do. She knows she's going to keep her baby. She's scared to tell her dad. And then there's Billy. So Billy Babcock, he's been pursuing her for a while. He's a bit of a player, but he's the golden retriever kind. Like, yeah, he gets around, but he's really a great guy. He just is enjoying the ladies. He's a very talented football player as well. And he has wanted to date her. And so she, you know, he knows she's pregnant and he's like, that doesn't bother me. Like, you're still great. She's like, no, I don't want to put that on you or anything. And he's like, well, how about we just hang out and get to know each other and we take it slow? Like, we've never, like, I don't think either of us have really taken a relationship slow. So it's actually Billy who suggests this. He's like, I really want to get to know you. Like, I'm serious about it. And so she's like, okay. But then she actually goes to tell her dad, because what happens is that she has to quit the cheerleading squad, and she was actually there with a scholarship for cheerleading. Now, her dad makes a good amount of money, but her parents have just really encouraged her to try to take care of school for herself as like a responsibility thing. And she could get a discount on her tuition because her father's a staff member, but because she had already like started the year without doing that, you can't like retroactively add it in. And so her dad gets told that her school's not covered before she gets a chance to tell him she's pregnant. So she has to tell him. And he doesn't take it too great to start. And Billy actually overhears him railing into her. Okay. Now, just to be clear though, her parents are great. Her dad, he's great, but he is like disappointed and he's upset. And the fact that she hadn't told him, he's feeling betrayed. So like, you know, it was a colleague telling him she dropped out of school, or she wasn't dropping out, but that school isn't covered right now. So it is like a lot for him to get. So I'm not like mad at the dad, but he does say some pretty hurtful things in the moment. And Billy overhears it and he bursts in and he's like, stop yelling at her. You're not being nice. And so the dad is like, you did this. And so he assumes that Billy's the dad, and Billy doesn't say no. He's like, so what if I am? I'm going to be there for Roxy. Roxy, who's so overwhelmed in the moment, just kind of goes along with it. And then the parents start making plans for them. So it's actually really sweet. Like I said, her parents are great. The dad is like, okay, well, we're going to look after you guys. So they actually get her an off-campus apartment, and Billy is told to move in and he's going to be there for them. And I mean, he wants to anyway. But Roxy's like, Billy, you don't have to keep doing this. I'll tell my parents. And he's like, no, we don't have to do it right now. Like, I wanted to be here. Now we get to live together and we'll still like keep dating. We'll take things slow, but I'll be here for you. And so begins them as like roommates / like everyone thinks that they're dating for now, but they're also like starting to date. Like, it's a really interesting setup. So this book is really great too, because we see a good portion of like her being pregnant, and then we get to see some with the baby after too. So this one does have some third act conflict that is caused by someone else. But in the difference between the first one, which was the ex who just came in out of nowhere and just tried to ruin everything, the person who gets in the middle of this, it's not the dad, the baby daddy, by the way, but the person who gets in the middle of this, it was more realistic to me that this person would cause them problems. And I liked how they worked it out. So I enjoyed this one quite a bit. I actually gave it 4.5 stars because there was a few things that bugged me. I think it was a little too long, and it could have been shortened a little bit. But yeah, I gave it 4.5, and it's a 3 on the spice scale. And I really love Billy. Like, literally, he is the embodiment of a golden retriever hero. He was just so great. I loved him. So those are all the books I read this week. I'll have links down below to orders or pre-orders for all of them if you want to buy them. It does help out the channel if you purchase through my links, if you're already planning to. Or if not, it's a great way to link to the book so you can save it to buy later. Make sure you check out the Etsy shop for some of the fun designs that I have in. Remember that everything's 18% off until my birthday on the 18th. I'm going to be 31. Oh my gosh. And also, this coming week is the Romance Takeover Readathon. Yay! Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So definitely follow me on Instagram and keep your eye out for, I'm going to do some reading sprints and some fun stuff next week. And then remember, the Pam Godwin interview is on the 21st. So thank you so much for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time. Bye.